It's 9 o'clock and it's a Saturday morning. Yes, it's time for the Monster Magic Saturday Show. Let's do this.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Feel the sun shining for your eyes.
Woohoo! Hello, good morning, everybody. I hope you are well. I can't believe it's been a week already, but never mind. Come on, sip some coffee, take a bite out of that croissant, and let's do some reviews. First up, we have The Music Box by Colin, Underwood and TCC. This is basically Colin's take on the old Lippincott box, and the effect is that you borrow a ring or perhaps a signed coin, wrap it up in some paper, give that to someone to hold. You then bring out your music box and give that to someone to hold, and they can wind it and music will play. You then take back the piece of paper, set fire to it, and the ring has vanished. You then open up the music box, and inside is their ring. It's a great idea for updating the Lippincott box. If you don't know the Lippincott box, it was invented back in the 1940s in a trick called the quarter go that was published in the linking ring. And it's basically a box that you can have things appear in, usually a borrowed item, obviously, because that way it's slightly more powerful, and it's usually padlocked, and it's always been out there as an object of some curiosity. It's put on the table and it becomes an element of a focus to something that you might come back with later. This is really nice because what Colin's done is by putting it into a music box, the box gets introduced nice and early on. It's in someone's hands. They're actually involved in playing the music. So it sort of feels like they've inspected the box, they've certainly handled the box and so on, but without sort of drawing too much attention to it. So it's more of a surprise when something ends up inside it, if you see what I mean. You know, by putting the box on the table at the start off and saying it's padlocked and so on, you're kind of setting up the premise already and letting people know exactly where the trick's going. So I think this way is much more interesting. So this is the box, and as you can see, it's very much in the style of TCC. It's painted beechwood, really well made. It's got a nice weight to it. It's not too heavy, but it certainly feels solid. I'll play the music. Now that is Ludwig's, I think. It's not a theme from Harry Potter. I haven't seen the films, don't really know. And there's no theme music in the books, which I haven't read either, because I'm a grown-up. So this is the padlock. The padlock's got some sort of strange key. The padlock's got some sort of strange key. It's quite a funny shaped padlock and sort of pushes across, which is nice. It's sort of quick and easy and perhaps sort of fits in with the style of the box a little bit, but you can change it. And personally, I would just have something that looks a little bit more like a regular padlock, just a small brass one that you can get pretty much anywhere. And inside you can see that there is the workings for the music box. And this is where their ring will appear inside a little bag, which comes in the accessory set. They call it an accessory set. Most of it's pretty fundamental to the actual workings of the trick. So you get a little something. You get a few of these bags. So you actually get 10 of these bags that the ring or side object's going to end up in. And they're quite nice. They're drawstring, and they can see through, so they can immediately know that their ring is in there and it's nice and safe. And the ring is nice and safe throughout. There's very little travelling going on. You also get the small hairbands that go around the top of the drawstring bag, and also the little bit of the secret as well. And you get a little something that's 3D printed to aid you getting the object into the box smoothly. Seems unlike TCC to do something that's 3D printed, but I guess because of the shape and the size of it is probably ideal. And it's pretty strong. Ooh. And it's pretty strong and sturdy, and it's not real force on it anyway, but do look after it. When it's all set up and ready for the load, it is quite a large, bulky item. A small Lippincott box you can sort of load in your pocket, have it in your pocket, borrow the ring, blah, blah, blah. With this, it's really sort of too big to have in your pocket, even an outside jacket pocket, mainly because of the winding handle and the loading system as well. So you're going to be loading it really from a bag of some description, your case that you might have on the table, or an elegant box that you might put on the table. So it's really for parlour rather than walk around. That sort of makes sense because this is much more of a performance piece with the music going on, and you're engaging a couple of people as well. So it's not too much of an issue, just beware that it's not a walk around trick. The tutorial, which is by Colin himself, is pretty straightforward. There's not too much to it, but Colin does run through his routine and several alternative handlings. And one nice thing he points out is that you can use the foam insert of the box to put it in your bag or your case and so on, so that the load is already set up and it's held in place regardless of where you're keeping it. He does a vanish of the ring with the classic vanishing handkerchief, as well as sometimes with the flash paper. That's up to you. With the flash paper option, of course, the ring vanishes and it turns out to be the key in its place, which is a really nice touch. And he gives lots of tips and personal preferences throughout the tutorial. I think it's a really nice presentational idea for the Lippincott box. It's a great fun place to have an object appear. It doesn't have to be a ring. It can even be a playing card if you like, and in that way the setup is a little bit easier, and you can possibly maybe do a card from your pocket. There is a little titchy bit of noise with the load. Colin has modified his very slightly, very cheaply, very easily to reduce that noise. But if you're in a normal working environment, not in a library or a morgue, you should be fine. The box is, of course, incredibly well made, as you'd expect from TCC. I'm going off this padlock more and more the more I play with it. But all in all, it is a great performance parlour piece with some nice music that really gets everyone engaged and enthralled. Plus, you've got a bit of flash paper for the drama. That is the Music Box by Colin Underwood and TCC 74.99. Next up, we've got Easy Tones by Relish. This is the big Murphy's launch of the week. And it's by Relish, who has done quite a lot of mentalism stuff in his time. And he is a very well-versed, very well-practiced mentalist. And the reason I say that is because he's on the tutorial, and if you watch his performances and so on, you will really learn a lot about how to present mentalism. In this trick, it's all done with these sort of Pantone cards, I suppose they're called. And so each card has a selection of colours and also a theme. So this one is a golden afternoon. That one's velvet sunset. And you can see you can go through all of these. They look very similar to something perhaps you might find in a paint shop or your Wix or your B&Q when you're choosing your paint colours, but actually Rich sells them as something that's used by graphic designers in order to know what colours go together nicely. But also, if you're using a computer screen, we all know that the colours you see on the screen aren't necessarily the colours that you get when you print it out or when you buy the product. In this way, with the colour code, you know exactly what the colour is going to be. So that's how Rich justifies the existence of these cards. And actually, to distance these from being a deck of cards, because they do look like a deck of cards, they do feel very much like a deck of cards. They're printed on very nice cardstock. If you want to do some card tricks with them, I'm sure you can come up with a few. But he actually gets a corner hole punch and puts a hole in the corner, and then puts in a small key ring, so it's all sort of hooked and dangling like so. And that sort of feels more, gets it away from being playing cards and feels more like another object entirely, and also dispenses with the box. But regardless of how you want to carry them around or disguise them or even introduce them, they look very innocent, despite the fact they hold some diabolical secrets, and quite a lot of secrets, more it seems than unnecessary when you see the routines. It just gives you various ways of doing various things, and also perhaps covering your track, so you can almost do the same trick twice using two different methods employed within this deck. So you've got within here basically a very, very easy way of forcing the theme here, and also particular colors that you can force very quickly, very easily, and very cleanly. The deck does all of the work for you. Most of the tricks here are going to be virtually self-working. There's also an element of a stack if you want to employ that. There's a nifty little crib on the box to help you out if you're going to go through that route. Each color also has a number, a little hex Pantone number. I forget what they're called now, but they can be used as you can reveal them, or you can even use them to help you divine which color someone is thinking of. They are also very subtly marked as well, and they also employ an old book test ruse as well, and all of that means that you can force a color, divine colors very, very easily, very quickly, and very cleanly. There is perhaps an element of fishing. You kind of get it down to a 50-50. Even the word on the back, Evershades, which is supposedly the brand of these cards, is printed in such a way to help you divine which color someone is thinking of. It's all really, really well thought out. I'm sure I've missed out some of the principles, but the tutorial runs through all of the secrets very, very clearly. The tutorial is actually by Rich and Craig Petty as well.
I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough.
The rants and tantrums that we all love, and I just can't seem to get enough of Craig. And Rich and Craig get on really well, and it makes it a really nice tutorial. Rich is quite nice and concise, and Craig is full of enthusiasm and gives lots and lots of extra details and makes sure that Rich doesn't leave out anything. And actually the development of this trick, Rich obviously showed Craig his original idea, and Craig noticed that some of the cards were slightly redundant and built in all of the extra principles as well, making it so much more versatile. The first routine, and the one you're probably going to be doing the most because I think it is the best, is called Mind Reading versus Prediction, and you offer to show your participants the difference between mind reading and a prediction. So you pull out an envelope and you put that on the table to start off with. You then have two cards chosen by two different people. You have them both choose a color, and with the first person you literally read their minds, and with the second person you show that in the envelope is the color they were thinking of, predicted right from the start. It is a real worker. It is very direct, it is very clean, and the reset is super quick, and it is so easy, and it's perfect for just about all occasions. You can have someone hold the prediction envelope right from the start, and the mind reading bit is really good fun. And this is where Rich's teaching comes in. He really does tell you how to present it properly, and how to evoke some emotion and how to build up that connection with someone, rather than just blatantly saying what color it is without any thought. It's a good, honest, powerful, close-up mentalism routine that I think's hard to fault. The second routine is called Fresh Coat of Paint, and this one really draws on the idea of these being color swatches from your local DIY store. The premise is that you ask them to think of a room in a house that they would like to decorate, and then they pick a color that they will paint that room, and you tell them not only the color but also the room they have chosen. The tutorial is quite fun at this point because Craig goes off on a little jolly of his own as he suggests telling them that they live in the biggest house in the world, the biggest castle, and there are lots and lots of different rooms, and Craig's enthusiasm for it is slightly bonkers, but very enjoyable to watch. And he does bring it all together with a very good point that if you ask someone to picture a room in their house, the chances are they've only got a bedroom and a living room and a kitchen, for example. But if he uses Craig's premise, they can literally just make up rooms, games room, ball pit room, present wrapping room, anything they'd like to imagine. It uses the classic one ahead principle, and Rich has some nice subtleties on it as well, and teaches it very, very well. It is a really good routine. Craig then teaches one of his routines, which is colour at any number. Yes, very similar to the classic card trick, where someone selects the theme of their colours, gets lost in the deck. They then name a number, they count down, and they end up at their one colour theme. It's a good trick, actually. It is. It does work very nicely, but it also uses a few principles, and Craig's handling of the cards and how the card is selected and so on are super clean. And if you are interested in doing card tricks like this, personally I want to get away from cards when I've got an object like this, but if you do want to do some card tricks with it, then the way Craig handles it, forces the card and everything else, is quite inspirational. Next, you've got another card trick called Colourful Gemini, which is based on Gemini twins, commonly accredited to Carl's Fools, published in More Self-Working Card Tricks. But even Carl Fools himself had a previous trick called Stopped Twice in 1979, and before that Theo Animan had something very, very similar back in 1937. What's really nice about this trick is that the prediction cards link to the participants' personalities, as do the colours that they end up selecting. So it feels less like a card trick, less like you found a chosen card, and more like in some way you've nailed their personality traits. Next, you've got Tossed Out Tones, which is based on Hoy's Tossed Out deck. It's very nice, very clean. The deck is perfect for that routine, especially if you're going to do parlour as well. It's a really nice one for that, and slightly different to choosing a playing card. Just the words used are just so much more fun and engaging, I think. And also Rich runs through another slightly quirky, bizarre idea of a paint can full of glitter, where you'll have to see that to believe it. And finally, you've got Invisible Paint, which is based on one of Craig's routines from Ticket to Ride, and it combines this deck with an invisible deck. It is quite involved to make up. You will have to dedicate an invisible deck to it, but the revelation is really, really powerful. Those 6 or 7 routines really sort of touch the surface of what you can do with this deck of cards, but personally I think sometimes you're going to drift off into losing the charm or the advantage of having something that looks like an innocent object picked up from a paint shop or a graphic design place, and you're going to turn it into something too similar to a card trick. I think Rick Relish's mind reading versus prediction is certainly the way to go. But to feed your imagination even further, they have given you some bonus cards. Some of these have just got the names of the colours on, and some actually have the pictures of the colours that can be represented. So punch and reflection, for example, if you want to use imagery rather than just the plain colour names. The teaching leaves nothing out. There's several ways of forcing the card, several ways of forcing the colour on the card, several ways of having the cards shuffled, false cuts, everything you could possibly imagine you might need is included in the tutorial. I think it is one of the best non-playing cards decks of cards to come out recently, not just because it's well printed, it's well thought out, and it's full of lots of different principles, but for Rich's teaching on the tutorial as well. And like I say, that first trick is brilliant. That is Easy Tones by Rich Relish, $25.99. And now I'd like to give you a chance to win Easy Tones by Rich Relish, because of course I've opened this one now. So what I'd like you to do is, if you had invented a colour, what would that colour be called? Please just put your name of your colour in the comments below, and I will enter your name into the hat for the draw that will be done next week. So that will win you Easy Tones by Rich Relish. Next up is Freak by Dave Forrest. A really, really strong piece of spooky magic, ideal for Halloween. You tell your participants the spooky story of the portrait ripper. You have them select the name of one of his victims, and that gets put into an envelope out of sight. You then show them 3 photographs of his victims that have been ripped in half, and they are to remember the face of the one that they have selected. These photographs then get put into the palm of their hands. You then continue the story, revealing the name of the victim that they were in fact thinking of, and when they open their hands, the picture of their chosen victim has been restored. But not only that, it has been transformed, and their face is now hideously disfigured. The premise is absolutely brilliant, certainly for this time of year, and if you like the spooky or that Victorian age, this is ideal. It's actually a really strong trick as well, with a really, really clever method. But let me show you what you get. First of all, you get, so these are the photographs of the potential victims, as you can see, and that's all. I find this one quite hard to quite hard to look at. It is quite a horrible, freaky picture. Obviously, you have to rip these in half yourself. Dave runs through exactly how to do that, and how to create the gimmick for the restoration as well. It is the method, let me just say you now, it's based on his 5-piece restoration. It's a self-working restoration of the photograph that actually happens in your participants' hands. It is very, very clean and slightless. It's very, very clever, and the moment that picture restores in their hands is incredibly powerful, and don't overlook that. Just because it's a spooky story and it's very prop based and very presentation based, don't overlook that moment of magic of that restoration. And then plus you've got the fact that the face has changed as well, which is an extra kicker and particularly spooky. Like I say, I find it quite a horrible picture to look at. You also get the name cards here. You do need to do something with these as well. Very simple, very straightforward. And you get the envelope. All these props are just absolutely perfect for the story and for the routine and presentation. Dave carries them around in an old battered envelope, sort of folded up piece of paper, which I think is a great idea. Very easy for you to do as well. The method is ingenious, super clever, and self-working, and very, very easy. You've just got to sell the story and have a lot of fun with that. Dave does it. He doesn't do it in too spooky a manner as well. There's something slightly tongue-in-cheek with his presentation, which I really appreciate, and would definitely be the route I would go down. But there are plenty of you mentalists out there who wear dark and you like the occult, and you know, if you really want to sell the Ripper idea, then go for it. You can, of course, make up your own story if you wish, and even print out different photographs and so on if you are good at Photoshop. The method is ingenious, and Dave runs through various other applications of it. You can use it for playing cards even once you know how it's done, but the story and the props and everything, I think this is just a complete winner for Halloween. It's a lot of fun. It's a hugely entertaining piece of magic. That is Freak by Dave Forrest, 1899. Next up, we've got Sven Cards by Brett Barry. The Sven pad without the pad. Yes, this is an idea that's been around for quite a while. It's not Brett's by any means. Starts off with Richard Mark, very long time ago, popularised by Bob Cassidy later on in the 80s. Colin McLeod also features something very similar to this as well, but normally you'd have to make it up yourself, and what Brett has done is made them very, very nicely for you. These are the lined versions, so they come in two different versions. You've got the lined and the unlined. They both work in exactly the same ways, and as well as the cards, you also get a little bulldog clip. You get 20 pairs, it's actually so 40 cards. They are really well made, and they work a treat. If you're not familiar with the concept, the idea is that you'd have different things written on each of these cards. You then hand them to your participant, who can mix them up as much as they like. You then clip them together with the clip. They flip through. Wherever they stop, they look at where they've stopped, and you have forced whatever you want on them. It's really nice. It's nice to have something that you can shuffle, and there's nothing really suspicious about them at all. But they are blank on the back, and I'm not sure if that's the way index cards are. I need to pop to Ryman's and check. In the tutorial, which is split into several videos, Brett runs through the development of these. He runs through exactly what type of marker to use when you're writing on them as well, and the best way and how to mark them. He also runs through some really useful handling tips as well. You don't necessarily even need the clip. You could hold them if you want. Brett suggests that you get 20 pairs. He says that 30 is the ideal number, which is a bit cheeky because it means you've got to buy 1.5 packs. So perhaps if you've got a friend, you could buy 3 packs between you. What is really nice is that when you're handling the cards, this does feel literally just like one standard index card. If you didn't know there was a secret here, I don't think you'd find it. Well, you would find it eventually, but it can be handled freely. It can be turned around. It can be, you know, it doesn't reveal itself. So you can be very, very confident that your participant is not going to figure out anything. One other advantage is that with a traditional Sven pad, you have to go through first of all and show that they're all different. With this, you can have the spectator just run through and they can read exactly what's on all of these face cards quite happily. These don't slide very well. They don't handle particularly well, so they're quite hard to mix when you first get them. There is a little tutorial at the end by Mark Paul who teaches how to make them glide smoothly over each other if you wish. I don't think it's much of a big deal because people are just going to mix them up. You don't really want them to be sort of shuffled or handled like a deck of cards in particular, although Mark does point out that you can create some sort of rough and smooth principle if you wish. It is simply a terrific way of forcing pretty much anything, as long as it can be written down in a word form or a picture. You can force it with these cards. Super clean in the participants' hands. They're just an ideal forcing method. How it's been overlooked by so long, despite being published in several different places over the last 50 years, I've got no idea. Combining that clever method with the brilliant construction, I think this makes SvenKards probably one of the most exciting things to hit the world of mentalism for a long time. That is SvenKards by Brett Barry, 42.99.
I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't watched it. Believe what? I don't know. I wasn't watching.
And that's it for this week's show, I'm afraid. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you don't subscribe already, then please do. It'll just help you not miss the next show. Please do enter the competition because I always enjoy reading your comments and your ideas. But until next week, grab some magic, go out there and have some fun with the best hobby in the world. Goodbye.